So hello everyone and welcome to the first of a list of diversity chats that we will be or that I'll be doing this year. And this one is creating an executable diversity plan. And it's pretty much coming up with 3 steps. Once you create it, or if you don't know how to create it, kind of giving you some ideas on how to do that. But once you've created that diversity plan, what are 3 major things that you can do to kind of make that something that is executable, not only for you as an individual, but for your organization? So, and another thing, all the chats this year will be an hour's length unless y'all just get to be chatty Cathy's, because I do respect Zoom fatigue. Um, all of them will be recorded and all of them will be uploaded on to the Confidence Theatrics website. So you can go back and listen to them again for reference. Most likely they will be the audio files, unless there's something that we're sharing. And also any handouts will also be on that website, which will launch on Saturday. Thank you for your immense patience on that. Yes, so if I seem scattered, it's because I'm still creating the website pretty much every moment of my life. So, yes, there are some chats that are on the website from last year. I think I was able to find 3 that Zoom did not absorb and eat up and turn into mush. But all the handouts are on the website from last year. So with that, we have Julie with us again this year, and she'll kind of give you the rundown of how this all works for those of you that are new.
Welcome back, everyone. I am Julie. I am just background moderating. So if you suddenly find yourself on mute, it's probably because you were unmuted and needed to be muted. If you do have to leave the room, it's okay. I'll let you back in. So Ricky will start talking. And if you have a question or a comment, please put it in the chat and I will build a queue. So, so that we just kind of know the order. Now, but if Ricky does ask a question of like, hey, does anybody have anything on this? You know, it's kind of gives a hint that it's an open-ended question. Go ahead and jump in. But yeah, when we get kind of to Q&A, it's just a way to make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk and that we're not talking over each other. If you, for some reason, have a question you're not comfortable asking yourself, just private message me and I will ask on your behalf, non-attribution. But this is a safe space for us all to talk. So just let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah. So with that, on the show of hands for those that are here, how many of you have created a diversity statement / plan for your organizations or your websites or whatever? Just raise a hand or a foot or a leg, Okay. So, yay. So for those of you that have it, it's like an expanded mission statement, but it's focused on diversity. So that kind of reason why we're calling it a diversity statement. But one of the things that I realized when creating or working with groups to create their diversity statements, a lot of it was, okay, we create this statement and then what do we do with it? So what we're going to do today, and it's a little bit of audience participation, is kind of think about diversity statements, and we're going to pick them apart. And I'm going to give you kind of 3 things that you can do to make that diversity statement come to life, and out of that, get action items. And you can also share different things as far as, I know because I've been involved with several different ones as far as what different companies are actually doing out there with their diversity statements. And it is something where you're going to consistently have to fine tune it and augment it and come up with different things. This is probably going to be, if you're looking at it in terms of a drive cross country, it's definitely not a straight line. You are going to hit all 50 states before you get to your end destination when it comes to diversity. So it's just wherever the wind blows, that's where you're going to end up going with this thing. So when you think of a diversity statement, what types of words are you thinking of, or what types of words do you have in your statement, and or what types of words do you think should go in your statement? And this is an open-ended question for anyone to kind of put it out there, and then we're going to work from those words into action. So just open up. What words can you think of that you have in yours or that should be in yours? No one's allowed to be quiet.
Inclusive.
Okay.
Oh,
So we got inclusive.
people are putting it in the chat box.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can use the chat as well if you don't want to talk. We need more than inclusive. Commitment.
And we have expansive in the chat, outreach.
Welcoming.
Mm.
Respect just came in. Community. Safe space.
Okay. So now I'm gonna try something. We'll see if this works. This is my Zoom knowledge. I'm going to share a whiteboard. Can everyone see that? Okay. So I need you to be a text person. So we have inclusive. And y'all will get to see that I can't spell.
It should have spell check.
It should, but I would still mess it up. It's my fault for being an English major. We cannot spell.
Or you can spell until you're spelling in front of people.
True. So here is our list of things that we just kind of came up with as far as things that would be considered part of a diversity statement.
And we also have supportive.
Oh, supportive? Yeah. Yeah, there are two P's in that. I know. There we go. So if we just start with when I start looking at diversity statements and plans and trying to help people kind of work through what it is that they need to do, I start with, let's just choose words that are trigger words within your statement. Because these are words that people are going to, when they read them, they're going to latch on to them. So when you say inclusive, what does that mean? So when you say like any of these words, what does that mean to you as an organization? What does inclusive mean to you? What does commitment mean to you? What does outreach mean to you? And those are things, whether or not you spell them out in your statement, doesn't have to be that way, but within your planning, you need to start examining these words and come up to, what does this mean to you? So that would be one of the things where I would say, so what do these words kind of mean to you? So we're just going to pick, I'm going to pick welcoming. So what does welcoming mean to those of you in the chat? If you were to, and I'm going to stop sharing at this moment, but if you were to walk into a theater company or into a business, and everywhere they say that they are very welcoming, what does that mean? Okay, so you get a warm hello. Yes, Nikki.
That they're open to new ideas and new people, and so it's again a safe space, but it's also we're open to changing things. It's not necessarily has to be and stay the same way. If it's welcoming, they're open.
Okay. So that, and I like that because those are what Nikki just said. That's what she thinks. Somebody else might think welcoming is very different. So we have in the chat, like there are no clicks. Even a stranger gets a greeting and an offer for help, welcoming all levels of talent. Um, those are things that, oh, and there was another one. Yeah, and they're interested in getting to know you. Those are the things that as an organization, we really have to define for ourselves because those are the words that people are going to hold us accountable for. Whether we're being, if we're saying that we are an inclusive company, what does that mean? What does it mean to us? And what might that mean to other people that are coming to us? Is inclusive, that you put on a show from the 20s, a show from the 70s, a show from the 90s, and then a futuristic show? Is inclusive the fact that you have a show that deals with um, different types of religious groups and then different types of um, groups within the LGBTQIA group? Like, are you putting on shows or things that deal with that? Are you having trainings or discussions or talks or anything that you do as a company, that educational events that span the accountability for being inclusive? When you're having, if you're going to have a discussion about, okay, we're going to discuss, I can't think of anything off the top of my head all of a sudden, but whatever it is that you're going to discuss, are you going to have it so that it covers not all the bases, but more bases than just one view? So those are the things that you have to start thinking about when you write these statements and you're trying to come up with, we have the statement, now what do we do? Pick your statement apart, take your words, because those are your words, those are your company words, and say, what does this mean to us? And then after you figure out what it means to you, then you ask yourself the question, so what can we do about it? So you end up with two whats. So what can we do to exemplify this? So let's go back to welcoming. What can you do as an organization? And this is an action item that would make someone feel welcoming. This is beyond the hello. This is an action item that the entire company needs to do. What are some examples of something that could be to be welcoming? Yes, Carolyn. You're muted. Here she comes. There you go.
Here she, okay. One of the things that I like to stress when we're welcoming, say, a new cast or even a group of people that's auditioning, community theater thrives only because there's a constant influx of new people, and that it's not the same people for any show, for any year, for anything. It's only community theater only survives and thrives if you're always getting new people in. So I had an interesting experience with a new board member recently, and she was saying, have you guys, have you, I said, wait a second, you're a member of this board now. It's not you guys anymore, it's us. You are us. And she said, why, thank you very much. So I think that's what we try to do with auditions. Once a show is cast, we like to talk about that. That we'll only survive if we always are welcoming new people, because people's lives change, they leave, they have responsibilities and they go and do something else. But We're only there because we try to be welcoming.
Okay. So yeah, and those are things you could do. You have those conversations. Anybody else have something else that they could do that would be welcoming in an action item or something that could happen? Let's see. Yes, Scott.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is good, because particularly in the theater world, we're creating these productions, and sometimes they live kind of on their own. In other words, there's a director, there's the actors, there's designers, but the rest of the community is kind of on the outside, or particularly from a board. So to try be more inclusive with the beginning of shows, so that more people get involved just to meet the people, because when you have a new show, you have new people in.
Mhm.
So I think the point is for the organization, more than just that one particular show, to say we want to welcome all these. The theater welcomes these people, the board members welcome these people, so that it's not just, oh, you're here to do the importance of being earnest, you're here to be part of our family. And that is a way, I think, that, it's a way to really welcome people in to the organization.
Mhm. And there was something in the chat. Ah, yeah, host activities outside of just rehearsals where anyone is welcome, bonding, ensuring not just people in the same numbers get to know each other, the production team and other volunteers. And yeah, that's really good. I know there's a group that I've heard of, and I'm starting to work with them a little bit now, but correct me if I'm wrong, when I'm getting ready to say it wrong. The Rude Mechanicals. Mechanicals, right? Okay. So the Rude Mechanicals, they have regular happy hours on Wednesday. That's their thing. But they are so, and they're really very welcoming. They're just like, Ricky, why don't you? I was like, I don't have that time. I really don't. But I appreciate that they offer it to me, but they really do bond and bring other people on. And even when you see their shows, there's something really enticing that kind of makes you kind of just continue to go in. Um, and again, I don't know how they do it, but they kind of do the same thing you were just talking about, Nathan. Like they have those activities and everyone can kind of come to them. Um, yeah, and you say I can bring wine, I'm there. So that's just my thing. You can always get me with wine. So those are just some things that you can do. I was also part of another company where the artistic director, I think she shook the hand of everyone that came inside that theater company for 30 years. I am almost positive. And for anyone that has possibly ever been to Tantalon, you've probably run into Charla Rowe. And yeah, and even if you haven't met her, you saw her. And she is emblazoned in your eyesight for the remainder of your life. In a good way. But she's that bubbly person that kind of knows everyone, and she would always come, Ricky, you know so and so. No, I don't. Well, Ricky, you need to know them and they need to know you. It's just that was part of the DNA of that particular organization, and that was just one of the things they did for the welcoming aspect. So if we were to flip the word that we're working with, so instead of welcoming, if we're going to use the word outreach, so let's take outreach and diversity and think about if those words are within your diversity statement, your diversity plan. You've defined what it means to you as an organization. Then you ask, so what can we do? What are some things that you can do that, if you're talking about diversity and outreach, what are some of the things that you could do? anyone can bring anything up. I have tons, but it's going to be conversational this year. What are some things? Everyone's quiet.
Well, I think that, like, I'm not on that side of things, but
Yeah.
within the teaching profession, when we go, when we talk about outreach, it's going to schools, talking to kids at schools about what you have, and about, the coming to auditions, and going to community centers, and maybe even having some actors or singers go and perform a little bit and say, come on out and to audition for this next show. And because people aren't going to come to you, even if you say we're inclusive, they're not going to come unless they really feel that you've, like, pushed a little bit. Here, I'm gonna invite you personally. I want you guys to come.
Yeah, and when just putting the chat um, to invite volunteers from a local school to put on the show that they are excited about. Especially right now, there are so many schools that are, you know, as we know, the whole school situation where they're still trying to figure out who's doing what, what's doing what, who's going in, who's staying home, who's doing whatever. But at Greenbelt, they've actually brought in two youth liaisons to a high school that are actually going to put on a show by kids, for kids, but speak about social justice. That's outreach in a way that it it diversifies things, because it's not just us old peeps on the board or a seasoned peeps on the board. But it also gives that whole mentoring aspect. I think mentoring is a good way for outreach for theater companies. And, it gives us that kind of outreach to mentor them on different things and then kind of coast them through the process so that one day when we all decide to sit down, they can take over. But yeah, that's something that could be done. And then, yeah, outreach to possible audience members or artists. Those are really good ways. I am doing that at work right now, but I use MailChimp to find people in different areas. I do strange Facebook posts, not strange, let me rephrase. I do the Facebook posts where you can actually target an age demographic. You can also target a particular area. And I always target outside of whatever's close to me. So if I'm going to do a targeted Facebook ad, I might target it to Baltimore instead of Gaithersburg. Because if I post it on my page, I already know that my immediate circle of friends are going to see it. And because of the algorithm, the people that are fairly close in my area. But if I post to Baltimore or Delaware, it's an entirely different group of people that don't know me that get an opportunity to see that particular post. But yeah, doing different shows that can pull in different audience members. There are a couple of theater groups that have done the audience gets to pick one show a year. That doesn't work well for everyone. Carolyn's like, no. But it was a small theater group in Charlotte, but they get to pick the audience picks their show. So out of the 10 shows, and again, small theater that's doing these small, very unique off the wall, off color shows. So they normally end up picking something that is a little calm and tamer, but that was something that they did to engage their audience. So some people actually go to that theater group so they can be a part of, they want to be in on the selection process of what shows are they looking at for the next season, or that one audience participation show, as they call it. Let's see. I love it when things come up. Yeah, feel free to read the chat. We will print this out and it will be posted we will remove everyone's names. Carolyn, did that kind of answer your question?
No, well, I think it's a couple of different kinds of outreach.
Mhm.
Outreach to audience and outreach to artists. We're kind of off the beaten path. And so a lot of the artists who participate in all these theaters of the people I see across the top there are not going to travel as far out as we are. So finding artists, we need to do more outreach to the artists who might be part of our show.
Yeah, and finding artists is always a difficult task. That's why a lot of us always ask other people, like, well, do you know someone that can do this? I'm looking for this, or I'm looking for that. And it's one of those things where there's no right or wrong answer to it, though I do hope that, I would love for there to be a repository of everyone that's in community theater somewhere where people can just kind of go and pick, like like a vending machine. I know that sounds really bad to put people in the thought process of being in vending machines, but at least that area. But yeah, finding artists is one of those very difficult things, especially when you're looking for diversity in artists. Um, a suggestion: partner with schools, partner with or a school's drama teacher, not necessarily the whole school, though you can do that too, but drama teachers, whether it's in elementary school, high school, colleges. I know, and I'm not sure if they have it anymore. I know Kat used to have a really good relationship with, was it American or was it Catholic or was it both? I can't remember. But they used to get pretty much most of their cast from those particular schools. So I would start doing, start looking at finding those particular schools and just kind of areas that are around. Don't forget community clubs, especially boys and girls clubs. They're still looking for anyone to kind of help mentor those kids. And I think it would be cool if a theater company mentored a child in theater. They would have more brothers and sisters than the law probably allows for that particular program, because there would be like probably 30 of them. But just imagine everything that they could get from that. They would know theater from top to bottom before you even got to the end of it. But yeah, those are just some things that you can do. And I know now that things are still kind of virtual, putting stuff out there for finding different avenues to kind of advertise your company and what it is that you're trying to do. And you might have to reach outside of your normal avenues. So like I'm doing a radio classic broadcast series. And I realized I work with the perfect group where I could actually source some individuals from. So I posted my audition notice at my job, which is National Industries for the Blind, and they pretty much lost their minds signing up to audition. So it's a group that I never even thought of before. And I kept saying, oh yes, I've directed someone that was BVI before, and it never crossed my mind. That's an entire pool that they're not necessarily hunting theater websites. So I just posted it on the board, on our virtual board, and all of a sudden they were like, we didn't know you did this. I was like, yeah, something I do. So that's a whole different audience or artist perspective that is kind of open. They were like, who else is doing stuff? And I'm like, oh, well, here are all the groups I know of. But yeah, it's being able to find those opportunities. And sometimes it's your coworker or something like that. But yeah, so the outreach part, it's literally saying that if I want to, if I'm going to enable and perform this diversity plan, and I know what it means to me, and I know kind of what I want to do, and you come up with these things, then it's putting it in action and saying, when is this going to happen? And usually we can get through defining it and coming up with some ideas, but when it gets to when is it going to happen is pretty much where the brakes kind of come on full force. Because if you do it, and it's fear, we all have it. If you do it and fail, guess what? It's a failure. Get up, do it again. There is no failure in trying. There really isn't. Just, you can try something really epic. One of the things that I'm doing is I'm, for my diversity plan, I'm tackling access. Not everyone has access to have, to take the trainings or to be on stage or to do all these other different things. So I am making sure that the things that I am putting out have a point of access for people of different socioeconomic levels, from different nationalities, from different geographic locations. And it can be anything from a sliding scale of tickets, or it could be where, yes, there's a class that's available, but it is truly geared towards, kids that are in grades 3 to 7. And I might partner with a school in Southeast DC or in the middle of Detroit that are able to take this particular class. So it's finding those pockets of access and making that work, and make sure that just a twinge of whatever that is, if it's being welcoming, that twinge of being welcoming needs to be in that action, that activity that you do. Or if it's being inclusive, that needs to be there. One of the things when I'm casting, I'm always looking for, I love it when people come down, I never get cast in anything. Okay, first, let me find out why. And then two, I mean, I enjoy people that just want the opportunity. Case in point, a gentleman that just did one of my radio shows, he auditioned and he goes, Miss Ricky, I am not the best reader. I'm still working on being able to read well. And he's in high school. Um, And I said, okay. And when he did his audition, there were some words I had to help him through. And he goes, so does that mean I'm not going to get it? And I was like, no. I said, what I love about radio classics is reading. So he gets to read, he gets to act, he gets to perform, he builds his confidence up. So of course, now he's emailed me again. He was like, can I audition for the next series? Sure. He was like, I know I might not get it, but he said, I like it because it helps me with my reading. Those are the things that I think we get so ingrained in. I have to put on this perfect show. And I'm not saying that we don't, because we all want that. But we get so ingrained in that we forget that the people that are coming to audition for us are humans that have emotions, and they have a need for someone to take an opportunity to allow them to shine. And I think if we do more of that welcoming part of things, that engaging, taking the initiative to do the unexpected when it comes to casting, it'll open up not only the welcoming part of your diversity statement. It will open up the inclusive part of your diversity statement. It'll open up your expansive, your outreach, the respect, like doing that tiny little thing pretty much hit everything that we had on our list of safe space, community, respect, welcoming, outreach, expansive, commitment, inclusive. And only thing I had to do was just say, that's what I'm going to do. So from that diversity plan thing, it's really just tip one, define what it means to you. Tip two, what is it that you want to do? You might come up with 10 things, but work on one thing at a time. What is it that I'm going to do? And then how am I going to do this? Where is this going to show up within my organization? And how can I keep that going? Because you want it to be something that's very fluid in how you function as a business or as a person or as an entity, whatever it is, you want that to be something fluid that can kind of flow through everything that you do. And that'll make it easier. And once you do that, then you pick the next word within your diversity statement and you say, okay, what does it mean to me? What am I going to do about it? There might be 10 things. Find one thing. What can you do with that one thing? So if I were to say to you as a group that I am going to pick community as the word. Think about what it means to you. And I want each of you to come up with one thing that you want to do. It can be for your real organization or your fake organization, just whatever. You're going to come up with one thing that you want to do that exemplifies community. And whenever you figure out what that is, just put it in the chat. I'm gonna make you talk after the fact, but put it in the chat. What is it that you can do? Because communities in your diversity statement, we believe in an inclusive community. So what does community mean? What is it that I'm going to do that is going to exemplify community? Yes. Have a day or more where the organization goes and volunteers at a community organization. Booths at local events. I love that. Yep. Partner with other local nonprofits, food banks. When COVID is over, I want to have a community party with our school. But that makes sense. Yes. Advertise auditions and events in malls, common areas that are a little farther away from the theater. That is excellent. And learn something about everyone in the company that is not directly connected to theater. I love that. So those are all things that you can do just in, and that's just minutia details. Yes, I saw that, the thanks concert, and then you split with the local charity. I remember seeing that pop up all the time for RCP. Wait a minute, let me get this last one. Invite volunteer groups to raise funds by doing concessions at intermission. Oh, I forgot about that. It's been so long since I've been at a theater, I completely forgot about intermission. Completely forgot there was such a thing as intermission. I'm going, oh, okay. So you have all these things. So you have those suggestions in your mind. So we're going to say that that's your foot on the gas. Here's the other brake pedal. We're going to pretend that you're on a stick shift now. So the other thing that stops people is that you've come up with all of this. Who's going to do it? Yeah, that seems to be the big one. Who is going to do it? So that goes back to, and it's such a I know, human resources. That goes back to such a bigger issue when it comes to community theaters, because we're all volunteers pulling together, trying to get this, trying to get this show going, trying to get, these business things organized, trying to raise money. And to add something like, okay, well, now we are being asked to do this. And yeah, finding those people. One of the things that I did with one group that I was working with is that everyone had to, you pretty much pitched your own idea. You came up with your idea of what you wanted this activity to be. And I did a kind of like a voting thing to where people got to vote, and they didn't know who said what. They got to vote on what, what they liked. And then I put them in groups based on what they chose. And within those groups, they had to choose their lead. And then they pretty much went back into the whole planning session. So sometimes you have to become very strategic in a collaborative way in terms of getting people to collaborate and get this to happen. And we all have our worker bees that will do everything over and over. Y'all are killing me in the chat. You all have your worker bees, the Sunshine Committee, yes, that will go out and they will work themselves to oblivion to get things done. But yeah, you definitely just kind of need to come up with some, whatever the activity is, to get the entire group. And usually what I have found, if you can pick one thing to work on versus, you can come up with a diversity plan that has 20 things in it. If you show that to any one person, everyone's going to sit back and like, okay, that's just a lot of work. I don't have time for that. Pick the one thing. If it's the access thing that you want to work on, or if it's, we're going to do a show where, we're going to have talk backs afterwards, and we're going to have community leaders come in and kind of do this chat thing. Or if it's going to be, we're going to do videos of the cast talking about what this means to them and use that as advertisement for the show, but it speaks to diversity. And there's so many different ways that you can play with it that makes it, that takes the onus off of one individual, but makes it more of a group and collaborative effort. But, and I do know that is the next hardest thing, that you come up with this great idea and then no one wants to do it. Sometimes you just have to be the one to do it. That's the more realistic answer to most of it. And I've kind of said this to myself on several occasions. If I want to see change and no one else is going to do it, then I can't wait for someone else to enact the change that I'm asking for. So I need to put my foot out there. So if diversity and inclusion and outreach and being expansive and welcoming is something that you are truly committed to, and not just as a board, as individuals, just do the tiny things. It doesn't have to be a whole big giant thing where, okay, we're just going to completely we're going to do an entire season of August Wilson. Don't do that to yourself. Just sit there and say, you know what? We're going to have these. I know two people that would love to sit here and talk about August Wilson for days. We're going to have them do a video series of August Wilson. You've done it. Only thing you have to do is get your two friends together in front of Zoom and you chat. Or we're going to do something that's welcoming. We're going to send, you know, for the, I'm going to use Second Star as an example. We're going to clean out our storage facility. It's a community thing. First 20 people that come get a $20 gift certificate. Just, just out of the wazoo. Sometimes you have to bribe people to do good stuff. Sometimes you really do. But yeah, you'll get me for wine. That's true. Very true. But yeah, you really have to sometimes come up with just really weird things. I know for TJ and I, we just did the auditions for Brooklyn, and we were like, okay. Oh, let's try backstage. So now Silhouette Stages is known as far as, didn't something come from overseas?
An application from France and South Africa.
So Silhouette Stages is now known in those two areas, whereas, yeah. So, I mean, did they get cast? Don't know. But even if they didn't, Silhouette Stages is now known in some areas where they have not been known before. And it was for a community. You're not getting paid. And people were sending in stuff. And there were some people, I'm like, I know your equity, but thank you for submitting. Like, because you are really good. I know your equity. The cast member, the last cast members from North Carolina. Yeah. So it's finding those people. And then Julie had her show, Until the Flood. For those of you who didn't see it, wow, you missed an amazing freaking show. But it opened up conversations that people wanted to have, needed to have. I couldn't make the talk back and I was very upset, but they had over 100 people at the talk back. And I'm pretty sure those people were not just 100 from here, but just in general. Nikki just did a show. She lives in New York. She wrote a show and then directed it down here for Pandora's Box Productions. And there were people in that show from Tennessee, from here, and I'm not sure where the other two were from.
Miami.
Yeah. So it's, the virtual thing opens you up. Now, mind you, when things reopen, will the virtual people be able to come be on your stage? No, but if you keep the virtual thing going, guess where they'll be? Right there. So it's just the opportunities of just making sure that just because you get to that point of we have a plan and everyone throws their hands up, just someone put their hand in and just do that tiny little thing. Second Star also did their holiday concerts with the backtrack with Mr. and Mrs. Bowen as the host, which that laugh track was hysterical. But it was amazing. They had people from everywhere that was, all different races, ages, whatever, that were all there and present and participating. And those are just things that you can just kind of recycle and redo. And they're also really good nuggets to kind of hold on to for when you're applying for those grants. These are all wonderful things. Everything ties into something else. But yeah, that kind of gets us to that point where I was talking about with that diversity plan, just really defining it, what it is for you, what you want to do, get that written all the way out, and then where is this going to be seen throughout my business? And then out of that, just find one tiny thing. Because once you get one thing going, the rest kind of comes easy. Find one tiny thing that you can do that will make things go. Anybody got questions, comments, statements? I know I'm going to enjoy reading that chat when this is over. Anything? Told you I wasn't going to keep anybody. Okay, hold on. Tiffany, let me read this. Should we try to be more specific in our diversity statement? So instead of saying welcoming, we say what we mean by being welcoming, what specifically we will do. So, great question, Tiffany. And I'm going to share what a particular group did. They still have their diversity statement, but they didn't, I can't talk. This is their idea page where they are doing inclusion, diversity, equity, and access. And this is where it kind of came from. What does inclusion mean to them? What does diversity, what does equity mean? What does access mean? And then they continue to go through their site to kind of explain what the rest of the things are. So you can kind of see what they're, so they have this whole thing about community, mission, values, anti-racism. They have this whole thing that's kind of written out. And you could kind of drill down into seeing some of the other things that they are actually doing. But yeah, I would say you can do both, Tiffany. You can be specific, but keep in mind, the more specific you are, the more accountable you are. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you put it out there, make sure that you can back it up. So, and I remember when talking with this particular group about them putting that out there, I was like, it's great. Just make sure you're able to weave that thread through in what you're going to be doing as a company. Because 9 times out of 10, most people won't, but you only need one person to scream fire, and then everyone's looking. So I would say for an organization, define it down to the minutia, but I wouldn't necessarily put it on your web page, the details. It was like, here's it. And then you can also, like, people have newsletters and stuff that they're kind of putting out. Or if you have like a newsletter for your company, you can kind of give updates there, like, with our DEI plan, this is what we're doing, this quarter, or this is what we did. It's just kind of being able to report out on those things. And those are things that are really, they'll prove to be helpful, and they'll also keep you accountable, especially if okay, by May, we want to have, worked with 1 or 2 organizations in order to get a LGBTQIA representative to be on, to be a liaison with us to kind of help us pick those shows. And then we want to work with, a school in order to get somebody of youth to kind of help us figure out, what shows or what things that we can do that would benefit them from there. So that's an easy goal to kind of, I'm not gonna say easy goal, but that's a goal that you could put out there, and at least it gives you something to work towards and kind of put your calendar in order. Yes, you can. You can put diversity statement as part of your mission. I have seen that more so now that, and this is going to sound bad, now that things have calmed down somewhat, the Black Lives Matter statements that were kind of out there are now being moved into, this is our mission statement, which also includes our diversity component. So I have seen that happen where it is mixed. Some people are keeping it separate to keep themselves accountable. I know for my company, it's separate so that every time I go to my website and I look at it and I see the diversity thing pop up, I have to go, am I doing something, anything that's within that diversity statement? Is there something on my website that is not speaking to that? And knowing that that's going to be a constant thing that I'm going to have to keep up with. So as people come in and say, Ricky, I want to teach this, or Ricky, I want to do that and want to do that, I need to make sure that it fits within my statement, my mission statement, my diversity statement. And that's on me. Everyone can come to me saying they want to do something, but if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. And I'll work with them to either make it fit or say, okay, so you can go here, because they would love to work with you because they have a different mindset of where that would fit than I do. So any other questions? None? Well, guys, thank you for this wonderful hour of being able to kind of show you stuff. There is a handout that will kind of have not only just what we talked about on it, but it'll also have some other steps that are within that diversity plan to kind of help you get over that, those roadblocks, which is the next one that we'll be talking about, which is in February, is the roadblock to diversity. But no, thank you guys so much. Much appreciated.